Welcome back to Confessions of a Recruiter with Blake and Declan. We are on a global mission to build the world's largest community of recruiters so we can all connect and succeed together.
That's right. If you want to check out more of Confessions of a Recruiter, jump onto confessions.tv, subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, access merch, and if you want to chat to us directly, join our Discord at XR House with the links below. Now, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Well, thanks so much, Nina, for joining us. You're the Managing Director of Beaumont People, which has had, from what we can see, phenomenal growth, coming up to 8 years in recruitment. Thanks so much for coming on board.
You're welcome. 8 years, Beaumont People, a lot longer in recruitment.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So let's start with Beaumont People.
Yes, so...
Did you start Beaumont People yourself?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
So Nikki Beaumont is the founder of Beaumont People, and it's actually been going since 2001. So very much a success story long before I joined. And I had known Nikki through the industry. She was actually very involved with the RCSA before, for a long time before I came along. And I'd known her through the industry, but not well. And she rang me out of the blue one Sunday afternoon and said, "Would you like to come work with me?" And famously, I said no.
Why did you say no?
Well, I was actually very happy where I was at the time, wasn't looking to move.
Where were you?
I was at China McLeod, so I was there for 5 years, very happy, not looking to move at the time at all.
You were pretty high up there. What was your position title?
Yeah, so I was Executive General Manager of the consulting business at the time, nationally, and enjoying that role immensely. We were doing some really great things with that business, and prior to that, I'd been running all of the recruitment for New South Wales and ACT across all of their various brands for the recruitment for a number of years before that as well. So yeah, was very happy, wasn't looking to leave. So yeah, so I said no at the time.
Right, and so what made you come around?
Well, when Nikki rang me, I said no, but I didn't know her well. And I said, I've always had a lot of respect for your business. I'd love to get to know you better. I always have a philosophy that it's good to say yes to things, and also wanted to just meet her, understand a bit more about her business. So I said no, but would love to have a coffee, love to find out more about you as a person. Always think it's good to know people for down the track. And so I did meet with her for a coffee. And then over the following few months, quite a few things changed within China McLeod. And also some things changed for me personally from a health perspective. And so a sort of period of time later, I followed up with her and with some of those changes that occurred, and the timing just seemed to work out. She hadn't found anyone. I was in a position where things had changed, and so the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay, so this is interesting because we haven't had someone with your type of experience before, I wouldn't say. So what does an executive general manager at Chandler McLeod look for in a new opportunity?
Well, interestingly, when I met with Nikki, so I went from a very big business at China McLeod, lots of people, and I was travelling every week, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth. And at the time, Beaumont People was a much smaller business. And Nikki was looking to step away a little bit more and have somebody else run the day-to-day for her. And I said to Nikki, my one concern was I might be bored. Famous last words.
Yeah.
But I was looking to lessen the travel component, and I was looking to have, because I had some health concerns, I was looking to have a slightly sort of less stressful role. And that was partly what was of interest to me, but also was looking to work one-on-one with an owner of a business. Obviously, China McLeod, big brand, big known business, big listed organisation, great organisation, loved my time there, but was looking to be able to work with somebody where I could influence much more directly and kind of be much more involved in the decision making. So that was really exciting.
And what was Beaumont People like when you started?
So we were about 20 people at the time, and we were obviously a much smaller organisation. We had a fledgling office in the Byron Bay area, probably I think it was one person at the time.
So that's been a thing for a long time.
Yes,
I see Byron is such a odd place to have a recruitment agency.
Yeah.
Well,
is that just a front so the
everyone
staff
can
can
go
go surfing?
it's a very Beaumont thing. So what happened was we had somebody at the time that had left and moved to Byron Bay, and then got in touch and said, I just don't feel like it's working for me. Any chance you feel like opening an office in Byron? And Nikki had said, sure, we'll give it a go, and gave it a go. And now we have about I think it's about 12 people in our Byron Bay office. We have a
Wow.
Gold Coast office. We've just got a fledgling office, very, very fledgling office in Melbourne. That's just a bit of a startup area for us, but we're very good at saying, don't leave, let's see if we can solve the problem instead. So we see opportunity around the people more than...
So it was never a business plan. It was just like, hey, we're going to lose these good people. Let's just help set them up.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
Awesome.
and it's turned out to be a great business decision, not a lot of competition.
And so, great. And so what's the transition like coming from Chandler McLeod, big business, obviously lots of support, processes, systems, and then going into that working one-on-one with an owner? What were the kind of the challenges that you possibly weren't aware of that you were walking into?
Well, the other concern that I probably didn't voice to Nikki, but obviously the other concern I had was that I needed to get on with Nikki. That was a piece. Now, I knew through the interview process that we seemed to get on famously straight from the beginning. I mean, I think our second interview, we had champagne in our second interview. That was always a good sign. We've always got on really well, so that helps. Not to say that we don't have our fair share of robust discussions, we do, but we're always very respectful in the way which we have those discussions. We have different strengths, and that's great. And it means that we bring different things, excuse me, to the business relationship. And we work really well together. And she also enabled me to come on as a business partner in the business a couple of years after I joined. So that's been a really important factor for me as well. And so that was obviously something that was really crucial. So that's been great to see that part of the journey come through. So working with her and shaping that strategy, she had said she wanted to step away from the business. Literally within, I don't know how quickly it was, but it felt like a matter of weeks. She bought a property up in the Byron Bay hinterland herself and pretty much moved away sort of months later. So it was very much, thanks very much, there you go, kind of thing. So
you were doing that good of a job.
I think it was more that she was that keen to be able to, when I say step away, she's very much still involved. So, and she very much, especially with the hybrid and remote working, she flies down to Sydney all the time. So she's very much still involved, very much still drives a lot of the strategy. So very much still has a keen interest in the business, very much still involved. But it's great to be able to work in partnership with her and have that kind of ability to work together and bounce ideas off each other.
So walk me through that strategy then, because it's a talking topic that comes up from time to time around what an agency is like and the systems, processes, and people from like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80. And there's some really crazy kind of self-identity, like reimagining yourself type of moments, I guess, you would have in an agency when you're trying to scale through these kind of thresholds of staffing and all that kind of thing. What was that like going from 20 people to like the next goal? What was the next goal thereafter, and what did you have to do to try and achieve it?
So the big thing for us was always just to really try not to forget who we were, and just to try, and we talk a lot about the people. We talk about placing people first being a tagline, but not being a tagline, always being about who we are. We talk a lot about meaningful work. Our purpose is around connecting people to meaningful work and creating more opportunities for meaningful work. And so, for example, part of that, when we looked into it, we realised there was no definition of meaningful work. So everyone talks about meaningful work, but nobody had actually defined it. So we commissioned academic research into what it meant. We built a profile tool so people could actually go on and measure it, and then we made that public and free for anybody to use anywhere in the world. I've actually just written a book on meaningful work, which is about to be released in July. So we kind of really, it's called Meaningful Work. Unlock.
Beauty. What a title.
Does what it says on the tin. So we really want to live and breathe that, but we wanted that as we grew. Yes, we've had to put things in place. So we've put things in place like career pathways where it's really clear what the next step is, but those pathways are not about tenure in terms of time, they're about outcomes. So you get promoted when you've done a certain number of placements and activities. So if you can do those placements quickly, you get the promotion. If it takes you longer, that's when you get the promotion. So the pathways, the career pathways are associated to outcomes. Before we came on, we were talking about we have a productivity guideline. So we work a 4-day week. We do the 4-day week where everyone gets...
This will be interesting.
Not everyone, and you can ask me about this in a second, but you have the opportunity to get paid for 5 days and work for 4. That's linked to productivity guidelines. We measure people's roles based on productivity guidelines. As long as you're meeting those productivity guidelines, we're pretty comfortable in how you go about your job. So we're really clear on being outcomes-based in how we measure things.
Okay, so I've got a lot of questions about that. Okay, so generally it's billings related, Is billings a big part of productivity guidelines?
It's a big part, but it's absolutely categorically not the only part by a country mile.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to that. My next question, just before I get a little deeper, 4-day work week, don't they work longer hours in the 4 days and technically they still work a full week, or do they actually work a day less?
It's entirely up to them. They have productivity guidelines that they have to meet, which are defined very clearly by role. And we had a working group that anybody in the business was invited to join to decide how we came up with those productivity guidelines. Lots of debate, took a lot of time, wasn't anywhere near as simple as it sounds, so let me be clear about that. But once we came up with those guidelines, and they include billings, they include NPS scores, they include compliance rates, they include support for your peers and your managers, there's various guidelines in there, and living our values and things like that as well. So it's not just billings, is my point. As long as they are meeting those productivity guidelines, if they can do it in 4 days, they do it in 4 days. If they do it in 4.5 days, if they can do it in 3 days, we don't clock watch. I don't know who logs in when, I don't know who logs off when. As long as they're meeting their productivity guidelines, it actually doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's say they've got their productivity guidelines. You said NPS score?
Yep.
What was some of the other ones?
So there's compliance, they have to meet their compliance obligations.
What would that entail?
So we get tracked measure weekly on things like absolutely things like WorkPro is one of the systems we use, as is onboarded, but things like visa checks, reference checks, the legalities of the role, but also first day check-ins, first week check-ins, first month check-ins, that all our terms of businesses are signed and up to date. So those kind of things are done.
Okay. And so when they are up to date,
Yep.
Do they self-govern their 4 days and
No.
go, oh, I'm meeting it,
So
I'm going to take tomorrow off?
No.
Okay. Beauty, tick that off. I'm not coming in on Friday.
So where the revenue comes in is they have the revenue target is set at what we kind of defined as a good target. It's not the sort of minimum budgeted expectation, but it's also not our highest performer expectation.
Yep.
So it's not the amount you'd be on if anything below that you're on performance management. It's also not our highest performers.
Just a nice
it's
target
kind of
to
a
get
nice
to.
amount to get
What's
to.
a nice amount for a 360 recruiter?
Oh, that's a great question, and you're going to put me on the spot because I should know the number off the top of my head. I think it currently sits at 30k, but I'm going to have someone in the business correct me as soon as this goes live. So
30k is good.
yeah, I think it's
fair.
30k.
Yep, that's an achievable, you're not dragging your feet. Yep.
I think that's what it is. Someone will hear this and go, Nina, you've got that wrong. And now you've given a public figure that's incorrect, probably. But anyway, I think that's what it is. And so if you don't hit that, the rest of it doesn't even get looked at. It's done on a month-by-month basis. So when you've done it the month before, you get it the next month. Assuming you've hit that target, all the other measures get checked by your manager to make sure you qualify for your 4-day week following month.
Oh, okay. That's
by
really
month.
cool.
Do people find it hard, like they hit the target when they work the full time and then they don't hit it because they've lost a week?
No, and the other thing is obviously we're in a commission-based environment, so some people want to earn more commission, so they choose whether they want to take the 4-day week. That's a choice they make, or they might do things like sometimes you'll see a message from people saying, I'm kind of half doing a 4-day week today, but the point is it gives them the freedom and the flexibility to do things. They get to choose a bit more about what they do or don't want to do. We've got a lot of parents, they might say, I'm doing a 4-day week. This week they may not do it every single week, or they might go to the sports carnival or whatever, and we have people that say, I'm not doing a 4-day week, but I'm going to leave at 3 o'clock every day to pick my kids up, or whatever it might be. So we're not prescriptive in the exact nature of how they have to take their 4-day week, as long as if they're meeting those productivity guidelines, the theory is there for how they want to.
Have you seen
use it.
overall improvement in the business?
Yes, absolutely. And people work hard to meet those targets.
Is that something that people strive to get to?
Yeah.
So there's one recruiter and he's like, oh, Susie's got the 4-day work week. I'm so jealous.
No, it's so I have been asked how people feel if they don't get there, but it's rare that people get there and then drop down. Doesn't happen very often.
Okay.
So people are quite motivated.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a bit of time to get there. When people are new, we have a 6-month probation period. You have to have passed probation to qualify for it in the first place.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's something that people very much work towards getting to. So it's the other thing is it helps people get up to speed quickly because they want to get there to be hitting it as soon as they can once they're out of probation. So it helps with our getting people up to speed quickly as well.
Nice.
What about the managers?
Yes.
Do the managers, do they get like a 4-day work week?
Right up to me. So we all have productivity guidelines.
Is that how you're here today? You're just taking your day off?
No. This is part of my productivity guidelines. Ambassadorial sales.
yeah. So what would the managers be judged on from a productivity standpoint? Because are they still billing? Are they purely managing?
Depends on them. So we have two levels of managers. We have recruitment managers that are billing team leaders. So they have personal targets and team targets, and they have exactly the same sort of productivity guidelines for themselves and their teams. And then we have a general management level that have it's basically their team budgets. So as long as their team budgets are hit, if they're hitting their team revenue budgets, then they get it. If they don't, they don't. With the same sort of then team NPS scores, team compliance scores, etc.
Oh, so that would be off, like, let's say the team average needs to be at 95 or something.
Yep.
And then if there's one person in the team that's dragging the chain, they're like onto their billing
and
manager.
Same
like,
for
mate,
me.
you need to.
Company doesn't hit the budget, I don't get my 4-day week.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
Yep.
No, I think that's really, really cool. I've actually never spoken to anyone that has an actual 4-day work week,
especially in recruitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we announced it. We announced it in our company conference in 2019. It took us until December to work out how we were going to make it work. We said we'll trial it from January till April. We trialed it, and then COVID hit, and it kind of
made it easy.
Like everyone was working from home. No one knew who was working or not anyway. So it was kind of like anyway. And also the guidelines we'd set were much higher than anyone's doing when all the jobs dried up. So then we went to just everybody have Friday afternoon off. I'm not going to lie. What we said in COVID when it first hit was, this is so hard. Just stop working at midday on a Friday. Let's just all be decent and go. It's come midday on a Friday. Just everybody stop working, have a break. And then we reintroduced it after the first 6 months of COVID.
And what was COVID like for you?
So the first 6 months were tough. We were very lucky that we did have some temp contracts that really helped us get through, because our perm recruitment did fall off a cliff. But we engaged very quickly with our community. We were one of the first people to host webinars. So we had our first webinar on the 1st of April 2020. We had been saying for about 6 months, we really should do this webinar thing. And then we just went, right, we have to do it. So 1st of April 2020, we had our first webinar. And we did them weekly all the way through COVID. And very quickly, we had an audience. We had people from Asia, Hong Kong, from New York, people dialing in from all over. And I think that kept us connected. And so as soon as the jobs came back, they came back quickly.
What were they about, the webinars?
All sorts of things, leadership topics. We have a consultancy practice in the business as well. We do a lot of professional development. We have a mentoring scheme for the leaders in our business. We do strengths profiling, emotional intelligence, coaching and profiling as well. So topics related to the whole employee life cycle. So topics related to that kind of leadership style of things. So anything and everything to do with that, a lot around mental health and well-being through COVID. And it just kept our clients and candidates connected to us.
You might actually help me answer this question. This is a question that I've kind of had bubbling away for me for maybe a couple of weeks now. We run small recruitment agencies where we are basically a billing manager, recruiter, absolutely everything all rolled into one. And we have good experience recruiting or hiring recruiters and candidate resources, but it kind of ends there because we don't have the layers of management in our business where we're trying to find a general manager or a billing manager and that kind of thing. So is there anything in particular or that you look for in a general manager? Like, how do you judge if a general manager is a good general manager or senior manager as opposed to someone that isn't?
Yeah, it's a great question. I almost don't look at resumes because the transferable skills for me are more important than anything else. So to say that I don't look at resumes isn't true. I get accused.
An exaggeration.
It's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is absolutely an exaggeration, but it's what you don't see on paper that is more important. So the paper is useful, but it's the transferable skills that are really the crucial things. So it's how good you are at interviewing the person and how good you are at interpreting what's on the paper to help you decide who you're going to interview. Because I've had people that are brilliant on paper and actually can talk the talk in an interview that can't.
Just
That are
no good.
useless or seem to be good for a while and then turn out to be. And I've made plenty and still to this day make plenty of terrible mistakes in hiring. I shouldn't say that out loud either, should I? But
you know, early on, I reckon when you employ someone and they come in, you know, and then you lie to yourself otherwise for a while.
Probably. I mean, sometimes it's taken me longer than it should as well to realise. Like, you know, there are some people that are good at managing up. I'm not going to lie. There are some people that are very good at managing up that tell me what I want to hear. And, you know, we're all human. We all have egos. And if somebody's stroking your ego, sometimes it's easy to fall for it. And I like to tell myself I don't, but it's hard not to sometimes. So it's you have to have other people around you that will tell you the truth if somebody's falling into that trap.
So Beaumont's had been going since 2001.
2001.
So it was about a 13-year-old business when you joined?
Yeah.
And then you were you brought on to, or the reason that not Nina.
Sorry, we get confused all the
I
time.
get confused.
Internally, we get called Ninka.
So were you just there to take it to the next level? Because since you come on board, there's 70 plus staff. It's obviously grown a lot in almost 8 years.
Yeah. So the interview process that Nikki and I had was very much about how, and to be clear, it was how can we take it to the next level? Yep. So very much a team effort. So what can we do differently? What can we do to take it? We had lots of conversations about this is where the average billings are at currently. How can we get the average billings, you know, to this level, then to this level, and then to this level? And so one of the things that we've done, so first thing we did was build a very specific internal training program to really up the quality and the standard within the existing teams. And they were brilliant recruiters. But they'd done a lot of external training, but we didn't have an internal training program specifically for the recruiters. So we built our own training program week in, week out to really upskill them internally.
Does that cost a lot of money?
No, I did it all myself.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's free.
That I get. Sorry.
Do you want a white label?
No, do you know what?
Can we have that?
No.
Since it didn't cost any money.
I need to be fair. I need to be totally fair. I'm totally and entirely taking credit for about 25 people's work when I say that. So,
so the whole company came together to build it.
Yeah. So that's entirely unfair. I picked a lot of people's brains.
Yep.
Pulled it all together and then got lots of other people to make it look good and look pretty. So I drove and coordinated a lot of other people's work to build that. It's probably a better way of phrasing it.
And so you have an internal training program? Because this is one thing that I'm talking about with my guys at the moment, and probably something that we lack at Vendito is we don't have formal training.
Yeah.
It's like on the go, on the job, what's your situation? This is how to handle it, that kind of like instant feedback type of thing.
Yeah.
However, we don't have like an hour once a week or a month where we sit down and go, this is how, you know, a refresher on how to pitch a candidate in, or just those really elementary basics of recruitment that everyone needs a bit of a refresher on from time to time.
Yeah.
Is your training program like a weekly thing, a monthly thing? What is it?
So what we have written is, we call it our CPD program, Continuous Professional Development. And what I do have a skill in is accessing and collating vast quantities of data and making it simple and writing it into trainers' guides that anyone can pick up and deliver. So that's what we did, putting it into topics that anyone could roll out at any point in time. So for a long time, that was a week in, week out thing. It got to a point where, because it was a week in and week out thing, we noticed less and less people were turning up to it because people were a bit over another training session. So now it's month in, month out rather than week in, week out. And we're actually at the point where we're going, do we do it as and when needed? We've actually now rewritten it again to have once a year, 2-day perm, once a year, 2-day temp, make it sexy and exciting again, because every so often you have to just rejig it to get people excited about it, because you gotta, you know, say it different ways, different times to try and keep people interested. What it took was our time and our resources, but it didn't cost us actual money.
And how long have you had that training program for?
Probably about 5 years now, 6 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And have you seen any direct result from that training program?
Yes.
What is it kind of given you?
So that lifted our average billings per consultant. So we did a strategy. I can tell you when we did it, because we had a 2017 or 2018 strategy session that we had a 5-year plan that we've just come to the end of, and so it was 2018, and it was one of the outcomes, one of the first things we worked off the back of that strategy session, where we went, right, we need a proper decent training program. And when we looked at external things, we went, oh, it's very expensive when you start getting external people in and adding it all up. So that's when we decided to to do it ourselves. So, and we did saw a lift in the average billings per person. The other thing that we've done in the last few years that's made a biggest difference to our staffing levels, which has obviously lifted our numbers but also our overall revenue, is we built what we call the Beaumont Academy. So this is our own internal way of bringing people into recruitment as a career. So we bring in recent graduates or people that have left school or just had one or two early entry level jobs, or actually people that are more experienced that just want a complete change in career. We've built our entire training program if you know nothing about recruitment but you want to give it a go, and we bring them into a sort of float situation, a bit like if you've seen Suits, and they come into a pool and they don't know what they're doing and they get allocated different people, they go on rotation,
they get yelled at.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, we're lovely people. No, they don't. But they go on rotation, they work in different teams, and hopefully through that, not even necessarily hopefully, but they might get picked up by a different team. If they don't, we've got plenty of good candidates on the database that we can talent pool so that they're ready to be, floated out to different clients or put on jobs internally. And then as soon as a vacancy becomes available, they get put on one of the actual job vacancies that's available internally. And a lot of our existing consultants have come through promotions internally that way rather than us having to go to market.
Wow.
Consultants.
Yeah. And where do you get the graduates from? Job ads, universities?
Yeah, all over. So we have a recruitment team that recruits specifically in the education sector. So it helps that we have quite good connections with some of the universities, but not just there. I mean, just all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got ex-hairdressers, we've got ex-marketing people, we've got ex-teaching assistants, we've got all sorts of people in that academy.
What makes, because recruitment's such an intangible job, like what makes a good recruiter to you? Is it just because you've got people from all these diverse backgrounds?
Yeah. It's a bit of art and it's a bit of science, because we've got people, I've got people that are brilliant that I did not pick would be brilliant, and I've got people that I thought would be brilliant that turned out
duds
not to be. Yeah. So you got to have a bit of inner mongrel, and that's really hard to know whether they've got that or not.
Are they going to grab that hockey stick and just rip it?
You got to have some sort of smarts. It doesn't have to be academic smarts, but some
Street
sort of
smarts.
smarts. But it can either be academic smarts or street smarts. But you need to have some sort of. You got to get it, But you can't always pinpoint how that get it is going to come across.
Yeah.
And you need to be tough. You need to have some resilience. But again, you can't always pinpoint how that resilience is going to come out. So it's hard to know.
Yeah.
I look for the resilience when I'm interviewing. We have one of our internal people who's brilliant, and she comes from.
Give her a shout out.
So it's Taylor Sharp. She's our people.
Taylor.
Hello Taylor, wherever you are. Hello Taylor. I don't think she'll mind me telling this story. As well, I was going to keep a confidential. Sorry, Taylor, if you don't mind me telling you this story. But she comes from a particular religious background, whereas part of that she went overseas to do a mission.
Oh yeah.
As part of her religious background to a foreign country where she doesn't speak the language at the age, I think it was of 18, to knock on the doors of people to try and convert them to her faith. And when she told me that story in the interview, I'm like, you're in.
Yes.
You are in, because that's resilience. That's dedication. That's perseverance, right? So, Taylor, I'll check if you mind me sharing that story, and if not, I'm sure they'll cut this out.
Yeah. No, I actually interviewed someone who did that as well. I think it was like a Jehovah's Witness or something.
Yeah.
And he was I think he came from like Fiji possibly originally, and he spent a year doing that. And I was like, oh, how much did you get paid? He's like, nothing. I was like, wait, you were door knocking for a year, not getting paid a single thing? And he's like, yep. Like, mate, you have got it. Yeah. He was just like, he spoke well, he was confident. I think that actually really creates a good character of somebody when they do something like that.
Yeah. And for Taylor, not even in her first language, not even in her second language. She didn't speak the language, full stop. Mate, blew my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my mates did it in LA, and they got guns pulled on him.
What?
Yeah, he's Jehovah's Witness as well. He's in commercial real estate, Jasher. And he had some crazy stories of it. He did it all over the world.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
for a whole year.
Yeah, that's a whole different world that, I'm just not, sometimes it's hard to fathom going and doing that, but they think it's, completely normal.
Don't they think if you knock on X amount of doors, it's the skills you learn are exponential in certain areas because you get in so many different situations, it's unexpected.
Different homes, different personalities, and you can really get in tune with
people.
People.
Well, I did door-to-door commission-only sales in America during my teenage years. So very obviously for very different reasons.
Kirby
What were you
vacuums.
selling?
No, I was selling aerial photographs.
Aerial photographs.
Aerial photographs of people's houses.
No way.
Yeah.
How good.
So, you know, and I was doing it purely for the benefits of travel and money.
Why
so
would someone
very different reasons, but
Why would they want an aerial photograph of their property?
do you want me to give you the sales
Yeah,
pitch?
let us.
Yes.
So it's unique how many people have a photo of their home from above. It's a great memento. It's, you know, it's a moment in time as your house changes, as the trees grow, as your children grow. It's going to remind you of what it was like when they were little. Makes a fabulous gift. Are you fed up of giving your wife? I think one of you was telling, or both of you were telling me that your partners are pregnant. Imagine giving them a picture of their home right now when the children are still in their bellies. You're going to have it to remember forever. It's going to be something on your wall that you can look at over time and see how it changes. It's going to be always there on the wall for you to remember this moment in time before your children were even born. It's amazing the memories it's going to give you.
Oh, you are good.
Wow.
Oh,
Pictures
can
for
you
John.
get me? Can you get me a photo of my house, please? That is so good. Wow, that's interesting.
There
I've
you
never
go.
heard of someone selling aerial photos before.
There you go. So, but I mean, some of the, you know, I went to some pretty rough parts in the States, and I loved doing it, but my reasons were not as pure as other people's reasons for going door to door. So.
How did you get
Yeah.
into recruitment? What was your start originally in recruitment?
So some of the people that I sold photos with door to door had gone into recruitment. I knew if you were good at sales, you could be good at recruitment. I wasn't in recruitment post that. I was working in events and conferencing in the UK when I got back from that after uni. But when I came out to Australia, I needed a visa. So I went recruitment, Australia, visa.
Oh,
I
so you're a
put the
visa
two
recruiter.
together. So I'm a visa recruiter. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lived here happily ever after.
Lived here happily ever after. Yeah.
Wow. I want to kind of shift directions a little bit, and I want to talk about RCSA.
Yeah.
So you've probably got the inside scoop here on the RCSA because of your experience there. Can you walk us through how you ended up getting on the board of was it the board of
Yeah.
RCSA? How you ended up getting on the board of RCSA, what your responsibilities were, and some of the things that you saw happen?
Sure. So me and John and Jodie go way back at the RCSA, and you know, we predate Charles and everybody else. So I got involved with the RCSA through John McLeod 16 years ago. So when the person at China McLeod at the time couldn't go to a meeting and literally in the office was like, I can't go at short notice, do you mind going along for me, Nina? And I was a bit like, yeah, okay, what am I going along to? You know, sort of not really sure. Turned up to the tiny little office that John and Jodie were involved in at the time. And it was it was literally the first ever meeting for the Pearl program, which predated the mentoring program that we have now.
Really?
Yeah, and it was, I found myself in this room of people that I didn't really know talking about, should we do this mentoring scheme? How would it work? What would it look like? And suddenly I was giving input into some mentoring scheme that I'd never heard of, thinking, how did I end up in this meeting? And then off the back of that, was asked if I'd go along to the New South Wales Council meeting, and Winston Bernard, who's now on the head of the judging panel for the awards, and it was Matthew MacArthur, I believe, at the time were on the council. Matthew MacArthur's the CEO of MacArthur, the recruitment firm, were on the New South Wales Council, and it was one of those moments of they needed somebody new, and it was kind of like they both stepped back, and it was a sort of look around moment, and I was sort of left standing there. So it was a moment of sort of default. That I might be being unfair to both of them, and apologies if I am. Winsome and Matthew. I think Matthew's term had finished, and quite rightly, Winsome had done an awful lot in her time, and probably was feeling at the point where she, had done her time. So I ended up being in the council, and through that for a number of years, then found myself as the New South Wales director on the board. And then now for the last 4 years have been the president and chair of the RCSA. And so my term as president and chair will come to an end in November, because
so Blake might have a chance.
I can't constitutionally carry on beyond November.
Really?
So, yeah, I can't, unless I kind of try some subterfuge to rewrite the Constitution, some Donald Trump style rewrite of the Constitution, which I have no intention of doing. So
you can only stay for 10 years?
You can stay for 10 years on the board, yes.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What was John like back then?
John,
The same as he is now?
he's the same as he is
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
John's great. John
Yeah.
has always been great. He will always be great. He's fabulous, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what responsibilities do you have as did you say the president and director?
President and chair, yeah. So I'm president and chair, and I'm the director responsible for New South Wales and ACT. So I'm responsible as the director to represent New South Wales and ACT's interests on the board. So if there was anything controversial happening in New South Wales and ACT, there never is. We always joke about it's always the other states. We've got a harbour. There's never we don't need anything else. Sorry. That's always my joke at the board as well. We've got the harbour. What else do we need? Also, that's not fair to the rest of New South Wales, so I apologise wholeheartedly for that comment. No, it's that my job is to represent New South Wales and ACT. So if there were, if we were having kind of state-specific issues, licensing laws, some of the other things we had in other states are around, like the licensing laws that have come up in other states, or any particular issues that might come up, lobbying, advocacy, that kind of thing. And also if there's a member issue or a specific thing here that might, need me to go and see a particular member here, that's my New South Wales ACT responsibility. As president and chair, I'm responsible for overseeing the strategy and the governance of the whole board of the RCSA, and working very closely with Charles and the executive team around the day-to-day kind of. Obviously, Charles and the team do the day-to-day running of the RCSA, but working with them closely to make sure that that's working smoothly, giving Charles a sounding board, working with him closely to kind of bounce ideas off and run anything by.
And can you explain to us in simple terms about same job, same pay? Keeps popping up.
Not in simple terms, no, but I can give you a brief overview. So essentially, the government want to put in some legislation that puts in place the same pay for the same job. I mean, I know the clue's in the name, but the reason it's not simple is that they haven't come out to give detail around what that would look like, which is where the complexity comes in, because there's a lot of subsets around what does that mean. Is that is it just labour hire? Does it include the consultancies? Does it include, what does it include? What doesn't it include? Does it include people? It's just a very complex beast, and there's no detail yet around what it includes. So it's a lovely idea in theory. Of course, you'd think so in theory, but the practicalities of what about how much experience we've got. So if I've been in recruitment for 25 years, but somebody's been in recruitment for 6 months and we're both recruitment consultant with the same duties, do we get the same job, same pay? What does same job, same pay actually mean? If I'm a temp doing a job, but I get leave loading and somebody else is doing the same job, does that mean same job, same pay? What does same job, same pay actually mean?
They've probably just jumped on the back of the male, female.
We don't know. Yeah, and so a lot of people go to, it means gender equality pay, but that's not what they're saying, but we're not clear on what they are saying. So that's the piece that needs unpacking.
Typical government.
Yeah, they just try and do things and
make it up as they go, make it look like something's important. Hey, just wanted to jump in here. We got a confessions hotline, so give us a call, send us a text if you want to share any juicy stories, or even just ask a question that's been on your mind, because we'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 0485 865 483. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So what does RCSA, do you think RCSA has given you more insights or competitive advantage over and above maybe other recruitment agencies that aren't a part of the board or don't have this kind of senior level of directorship that you have? Do you think it gives you a bit of an edge?
Well, I think what it does, I think anybody could get the information I get because it's public. It's not public obviously, but I am exposed to things that anyone could be exposed to if they went to the effort. I mean, you've just asked me a question that anybody could go and find out about, is the point.
Yeah.
But what it does is it forces me to read things and understand things that I probably wouldn't go to the effort of reading and understanding if I wasn't involved in it. So does it give me an edge? Yes, but because it makes me read and understand things that I wouldn't do.
Forces you
otherwise.
To engage further in the industry. Yeah.
But the other thing it's done, so absolutely from a knowledge and understanding perspective, but also and more than anything, from a connection perspective. The people I know in the industry, the connections I've made, the friends I've made, when I have a challenge, I pick up the phone. I know that many people that own recruitment businesses in almost every sector through the 16 years I've been involved. They'll pick up the phone and I'll say, hey Matt, hey Pete, whoever it might be, what are you guys doing about this? How are you handling that? What are some of the questions you've just asked me about how did you do this? I'll just call any one of a number of people that own recruitment businesses. And because we're all friends, we don't think of each other as competitors.
That's amazing.
We've known each other for years, and we're not in the same cities, or we're not in the same industry sectors, so we're not worried. Like I have shared policy information, and likewise back. We've even shared office space with each other from time to time if we've got stuck. It's really helpful to have friends like that in the same industry, and that's nice. That's what our industry should be about.
Why is it not? Like that's a very
unique,
and you're one of the rarities that could speak about the recruitment industry like that. And is that purely because of RCSA? You've opened up your peripherals that you know that? Because of like our entry into recruitment was like, mate, no, you don't add people on LinkedIn, don't talk to them. And that's a lot of
your jobs. They'll steal your
jobs.
candidates.
Don't put reviews up online because they'll find out who your candidates are.
If your candidate gives you a review on our business page, another recruiter will see that and then figure out where they work and then steal your client. It was like this convoluted.
Do you know what? Here's my view. Here's my view on all of this. If I have people working for me that don't want to work for me because I say to them, you can't put up your profile on a job, someone else is going to steal you. That's like saying to my husband, don't ever talk to another woman in case you suddenly accidentally fall into bed with them, right?
Amazing.
If that's going to be the thing that's going to make them not go and work somewhere else, then I am a terrible person to work for, frankly, and they shouldn't be working for me. And if my clients can get a better service elsewhere for a cheaper rate, they should get a better service elsewhere for a cheaper rate.
100%.
If they can get a cheaper service and a worse service, that's their decision to make. If they can get a better service but not cheaper, that's a different conversation. They say to me all the time, we get people all the time, clients saying to us, I can get it cheaper elsewhere. I say, yes, you absolutely can get it cheaper elsewhere, but you can't get a better service elsewhere. And cheaper doesn't mean better, because you'll end up replacing the person, or it won't be the right person. So if you want to try elsewhere and then come back to us and see if it's a false economy, I totally understand if that's a decision you need to make. But right now what you're doing is you're coming to me and saying to me that you want a BMW at a Toyota price. I can't give you a BMW at a Toyota price. I simply can't. So you need to decide whether you want a Toyota or a BMW. I've got no problem. It's your choice. You need to absolutely choose which market you're in. And I have no problem, and I will respect your decision.
Love that. That's really good. So that brings me on to your role right now then. What are your challenges, or what are the things that you focus on in your agency right now? Because, we're just simple recruiters, and we focus on getting higher billings and, more revenue, retaining, recruiters, etc. You're obviously a little bit of a different beast in that regard. So what is someone in your position focused on achieving?
Oh, it's no different, is the honest truth.
Okay.
So
you're still a part of clients and
yeah,
on the
absolutely. I've done about, where are we at Tuesday? So last week, I'm trying to work out days. Last week I saw about 9 or 10 clients myself last week. I don't recruit.
Are you still on the board?
No.
What do you talk about with them?
So activity.
Yep.
I talk an awful lot about the fact that the financial results are that they are a result of what we do. They're important, but they are the outcome of what we do. And the minute you make it why you do what you do, then you're probably in the wrong job. Now, it's a very important part of what you do, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with being money motivated, but there's also nothing wrong with it not being why you do what you want to do. You've got to work out what's important to you. So I talk a lot about our best performers have physical, mental and emotional. I'm a tennis player of old, so I use Roger Federer versus Leighton Hewitt as my example. I'm showing my age. I know, pick a younger audience, Ash Barty versus somebody else. I don't know, right? But
we know
yeah.
But to be really, really good at this game, you've got to have the physical. The physical is the sheer number of activities you put in place, how much you train, how much activity you put in place, the number of phone calls you do, the number of client visits and candidate interactions you do. The mental is the technically how good are you at doing it, because you can do it all you like, but if you're not doing it very well, it's meaningless, right? So you've got to do it at a high quality. And then the emotional is, are you doing it with a smile on your face? Are you resilient when you're doing it? Are you getting back up when you're knocked down? Because if you all know when you call your mum, nobody calls their mum anymore. I'm showing my age again, but if you did ever call your mum, you all know when you call your mum, you can say, "Hi, mum." You might have uttered 2 words and she'd go, "What's wrong?" So if people can pick up the tone of your voice in a heartbeat. So if you're not doing it with the right attitude, they're your three prongs of your stool. You need all 3 of those to be good at this game. And that's why Roger Federer lasted the distance and why Leighton Hewitt didn't, even though he was a number 1 tennis player in his time. Physically very good, put the hard work in, technically brilliant, that's what made him number 1, but couldn't keep his attitude up, kept losing the plot. Same with, anyone that's ever broken their racket, lost the plot.
Oh, what's the madman at the moment?
That's what they're
Kyrgios.
Kyrgios, Ash Barty, Kyrgios, exactly, great example, right? And Ash Barty's chosen to bow out because she didn't want to get to a point where it was mentally going to break her. So, wise woman.
And like over the years, you would have seen, what did Greg Savage say? Like 50% of recruiters bail in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Is that because of they just don't have that trifecta, or
yeah,
is it?
I think we're not good enough at being honest with people about how tough the job is. I think we're so keen to attract people in because it's hard to find good people. We oversell the job. We try hard not to do that at Beaumont. We're much better with recruiters, with experienced recruiters. We don't get it wrong with experienced recruiters, but we do have a higher attrition rate with our academy. I would expect that. We do take bigger risks with the academy because we bring people in that have never done recruitment before, don't know what it's like, first job often. So it's a bit of a, kind of see what it's like, and we expect that, and we say to them, give it a go, see what it's like. But I think we oversell it in our kind of. That's where we need to get better at being honest and not kind of get excited about someone, and then we tell them, "You're going to make all this money. It's great. We've got a warm desk." The amount of people that come to me, and because we're honest, when we say to a recruiter, "It's going to be hard. It's going to be this," and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go over there because they've got a warm desk," and I think they haven't got a warm desk.
Is warm desk a myth?
It's not even a thing.
No.
What is a warm desk?
It's not warm to
mean?
that person. That person has no relationship with them. You still have to build. It's like saying just because somebody is on Tinder, they're a warm date.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great one.
That is awesome.
Yeah. That's going to be a great little clip, that one. Yeah.
It's not a warm desk. They have no relationship with you as an individual. You have to build the relationship with them.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And then what about with the activity? So say you want to be a 30K biller a month or whatever that actual figure is, and you work 4 days a week. What do you consider to be good activity markers for like calls, submissions, send outs, jobs on?
So that's a great question. And we have quite a variety of different types of desks and different specialisations in Beaumont People. We work very much on specialisation. We literally, so I talk a lot about 5x5. So 5x5 is having 5 really quality A-grade candidates within the 5 job roles that you recruit at any given time. So you lead with your 5x5. If you have 5 really good candidates, so let's say, and I'll use accounting.
Just 5.
So you need 5 really good A-grade candidates in the 5 job roles you recruit. 25 candidates,
Yeah.
right? And I'll explain it with accountants because I spent a lot of my career recruiting accountants, right? So if I'm an accounting recruiter, I want 5 finance managers, 5 financial accountants, 5 management accountants, 5 accounts receivable, 5 accounts payable people, 25 people, A-grade people. And I want 5 A-grade people motivated to move any given point in time. If they're A-grade candidates, they are going like hotcakes. So you don't have 25 for very long. So,
No.
and you want to be taking those 5 to market every time. Now, the reason, and your activity should be driven by that, because the metaphor goes, now, I'm a wine drinker. I know there's a whole movement around moving away from alcohol, so apologies to the sober movement people, and I'm fully on board with the sober movement people, but I'm a wine drinker, so I'm going to stick with the metaphor. If I go into a bottle shop and I say, I would really like a Pinot Grigio, and the bottle shop says to me, I don't have a Pinot Grigio in, but I've got a Riesling. Can I give you that instead? I might go, yeah, okay, or I might go, or they might say I can order one in for you, and I go, okay, I'll have the Riesling and you can order one in for me. Or I might go, yeah, order one in for me, and I'll go to the bottle shop down the road and I won't tell them, and I may or may not pick up the Riesling, the Pinot Grigio down the line. That's like if a client comes to us and says, can I have your accounts payable? I haven't got my 5x5, and I'll say, no, I do have them, but I'll order one in for you. They're going to go to the recruiter down the road.
Yep.
You want to get a reputation in the space you specialise in. You want to get absolutely known for what you do. And you want everybody in your space to know you for what you do, and all of your activity should be driven by that.
That's interesting. I haven't heard it put like that before. And I admit I don't think I have a system where I've got 25 really good candidates for me to essentially have ready to place the moment I get an engaged client. So generally our process would normally be call our list of clients on a call cycle. Hey, how you going? You know, any hiring needs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're looking for this. And then you go out and you go, all right, we'll start the recruitment drive, and, you know, however many weeks it takes you to start sending candidates and interviews and all that kind of thing. So you're pretty much shortening that recruitment cycle by weeks, which in turn
means you fill more jobs.
Yeah.
Also means people come to you because you get known in your space.
Is that on a temp and perm basis? You teach that to everyone?
Yep. Also, we also do pretty much the majority of our jobs, perm jobs, are retained. I think it's at about 70% of our perm jobs are retained. We try to do very little that isn't retained across all of our business. That's reception right through to exec search.
Yeah.
We push very hard on retained.
What do you like? Is there a process? Like, could your consultants get a brand new client, tell them it's retained over the phone, or everyone does a presentation?
Everybody. I'd like to think it's not true. We train people to go take the job briefs in person. It's in person is video meets. It should be in person, but you know
That's
idea
the only
is
way to get retained. Hey.
yes, yeah.
Same
You
with
can't.
us.
You shouldn't be doing job briefs over the phone.
Nah.
A job brief over the phone is not a job brief for a start. That's not a relationship.
No.
That's not. It's like, just think of it like dating. You know, it's not a commitment. It's like, I promise I'll marry you in the morning. It's not real. It's a
Zoom podcast.
It's you need this. If you want a genuine partnership with your clients, you need to build a relationship, and a relationship is not built over a phone call.
Yeah.
It's certainly not built over email.
Yeah, I love that. See, I think that's probably one of the biggest weaknesses in our agency is we rarely meet clients. And it's probably something that it's dawned on me maybe over the last year or so when I've gotten less on the tools and in the forefront of just, you know, recruit, keep doing your thing, and more taking a step back and thinking, how can we do things better as an agency? I think that's one thing that that we probably lack. You're pretty good at it. You've got this, you know, client meeting thing down on lock, but we definitely don't. So yeah, I think that's an interesting, you know, physically meeting them, signing them up, building the relationship. Because realistically, as a recruiter, you might need 10, 15 good clients and you're good to go for the whole year.
Yeah.
You don't need to do too much else.
I make everybody watch. If you've seen the marshmallow test online with the little kids where they get one marshmallow they have to sit in front of.
Yeah,
What's this?
So look it up. It's on YouTube. I think it's called the marshmallow test. It's a thing where they make like 2-3-year-olds. They put a marshmallow in front of them and they make them. They say, we'll leave the room. I'll be back later. When I come back, if you don't eat the marshmallow, you can have 2. But if you eat the marshmallow, that's fine. You can. But if you eat the marshmallow, you only get 1. And then they film them. It's hilarious because they start licking it. They can't control themselves. But as part of our training, we make everyone watch this video because the whole point is, when a client calls you with a job and says, I've got this job for you, and they say, okay, I need to meet you to take a job brief, and they go, no, I haven't got time. I'll just send you the job spec. Send me some candidates. That's your 1 marshmallow. That's not a job. Don't work that job. Our fill rate on those jobs is terrible.
Totally agree.
Our fill rate on retained is something like 97%.
Yeah.
Don't work those jobs.
So
I went through the exact same transition because when you're a one-man band, you can sort of get away with things pretty easy, and then you start getting a few staff, and you can't. Not always, like, inexperienced recruiters can't say the same lines as a director, and to get that confidence out of the client. And then we kept having a lot of fallouts in contingent. I was like, this is just not working. And then that's how we got processes around retained, and it makes it a lot more of an exciting.
The RCSA
journey.
has a really good playbook you can use that we launched, and we got a number of people to contribute to, and I did a lot on it as well, but it's called Retainer Recruiter. So if you haven't downloaded it, download it, use it. It's got lots of tips and tricks in it.
Awesome.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. I'm going to have a
We'll
look
link
at
it
that.
to this episode.
Yeah.
One thing, actually, you were on the Today Show.
Yeah, I've been on the Today Show a few times.
Tell us about that. Firstly, how did you get on there? Because my man here, he's all about PR, and he loves and really good at getting into radio shows, TV shows, all that kind of thing. So what's your secret sauce to be able to get onto the Today Show?
So before COVID, we did, myself and our head of marketing, Sarah, we did a course called Meet the Press Masterclass. And part of that was, at the end of it, we got introduced to a whole heap of journalists, which included the Today Show journalists. So, and then once you've made the connections, it's easier, as you know, to then get on. So for a while, I became the darling of anything to do with recruitment and HR. They kept ringing and saying, come on, come on. So that I went through a phase of going on for a while. And then COVID happened, so I didn't go on for a while. And then when they did call me a couple of times in a row, I couldn't go on. And now they've stopped calling me because I'm now no longer the.
Yeah,
I think they've got Rafe. Is it Watson from one of the RCSA suppliers has now become. He goes on quite regularly now. I've noticed.
Really?
So, and I haven't followed up to see if they need anything else recently. But
So what do you do there? You said that it's a PR masterclass.
yeah, it's called Meet the Press Masterclass. It's great. It's run by a lady called Kate Engler. You can look her up. She runs them every so often. It's good. It's a good masterclass. Yeah.
So is there any kind of hot tips or takeaways? Because our process, well, Declan's process that he's kind of explained to me is you write to them and you basically just, it's essentially just recruiting yourself into them and going, hey, this is what we're doing. Love to be able to chat to you guys and chat about it. And generally they're always looking for a good story or something to talk about. So they'd be quite open to it. Is that kind of...
Yeah, the masterclass we did pretty much taught us how to write a press release in a way that essentially gives them a segment so they don't have to do any work. Essentially
that's the key.
The key is make it so easy for them to go, here's a segment I can put on the show that's going to be of interest to our target market, so that their producers go, brilliant, there's a segment that I can fit into next week. Fabulous, you're up. Thanks very much.
Okay, so just do the job for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. So you read a story and you could have a compelling opposite story, and then that would continue the storyline on. Because otherwise they're sitting around like, what are we going to do for news?
Something topical, interesting. There's a difference between the Today Show and the one that comes after, which I think is the morning show. So depending on who the audience is. So because I've done both, the one that's after is more kind of retired people, stay-at-home mums, versus the Today Show, which is people getting ready for work and stuff. So you've got to think about who's watching and tailor it accordingly.
Yeah, interesting. And how was that experience?
It was good. It's good fun. I like it. It's fun. Yeah.
Did any of your friends call you up and go, hey, I'll watch you on TV?
A couple of people saw it live. It's more about, I think you get more out of the social media when you post yourself after, because that's what people see. So that's actually more valuable than the live TV bit.
Yeah, love that. We also have a new thing we're trialing. I say it's a thing. What are we going to call it? A new segment?
I reckon a segment, yeah.
We're going to call this
deserves its own segment.
Okay, we've created some questions.
Okay.
Some confessions of a recruiter questions. We got them on a card.
Okay.
So I think for our final kind of segment, I reckon we go through these questions. What do you reckon?
Okay, give it a go.
Should we get the juicy questions out since you're going to be honest and answer anything? Okay. I'm going to shuffle them just so you know it's not rigged.
Okay. Should I be nervous?
No, you shouldn't be nervous. All right. You can tell I'm a great shuffler.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you shuffle.
You really want me to shuffle?
Oh,
no, I will. No, I'm happy to. I will. I'm happy to. They're big, aren't they?
They are big.
You need them card size to shuffle them properly. I'm going to do it like
I wanted to make them a little bit theatrical, like a little bit oversized and fun.
Oh, wow.
Oh, here we go.
I can't do them card size. Hang on.
You've got all the tricks.
What the? Oh, nice. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Were you a blackjack dealer?
No, but I can play poker pretty well.
Really? Nice. I love it. Okay. First question. You ready?
Yep.
I want a juicier one than this. What's your approach to handling objections from clients and turning them into opportunities?
Oh, I actually have an agenda I would run through quite specifically. So, and I didn't come up with so our marketing person came up with the acronym. So we call it the BONE acronym because of my name. So it's build rapport is the B, obtain information, and it's really important that you don't move on to the next bit until you've asked every question under the sun. So it's just ask and listen, ask and listen, ask and listen. So you get everything out. So when you get, what happened, why, blah, 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 to really get to what the real objection is, because often the objection's not the real objection. And then when you feel like there's nothing else you can ask, then the N is nuanced solutions, and the nuance is really crucial so that you're actually giving a solution that's actually going to solve their problem, not whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And then E is expectations agreed. So you've got the next steps. So you're giving them BONE solution that they need.
Love that.
That's awesome.
That was
I've learned
good.
a lot out of this. This is great. Can you share a mistake you made during the recruitment process and what you learnt from it?
Oh my God, so many. Trying to think of something juicy. Trying to think of the best one I can give you.
So many mistakes you're trying to think of right now.
I think probably the biggest ones, I'm quite insensitive, so probably the biggest ones are when I've been insensitive and not realised until way too long after the fact. So the things I'm most embarrassed about are where I haven't had the opportunity to apologise. So when I've made mistakes, I'm pretty quick to, and I know about it, I'm quick to rectify and prompt to either, to try and apologise and pick it up and sort it out, both externally and internally. But I have been made aware of things now that I'm older that I did when I was younger that I had no idea.
Oh, I was going to ask the gap. I thought it would have been a few days.
No, but if I
decades ago.
things that are a few days, I've absolutely gone back and sorted out, and certainly the people I realising, and without people having told me that I had made those mistakes, and they're the things that I am hugely embarrassed about looking back, because I didn't realise until I was older that I was making those kind of mistakes. So they're the things that I'm embarrassed about looking back on.
Okay.
And were you ever like a really top biller, or did you find your way into leadership quite early and that's what you've always done?
No, I was always a medium top biller. I was never a really top biller. I was never quite motivated enough by money to be a top biller. And I did find my way into leadership reasonably early, not early. I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s. I came here when I was 27, so I only got into recruitment at 26, 27, something like that. I say only, but not early. And then got into leadership in maybe early 30s. So
Nice. All right, you can have a go.
Am I asking you or am I asking me?
You're asking yourself.
Oh, I don't know, and I can't remember what's the biggest month I've ever had. Genuinely can't remember.
I did not know that was in there.
I have not been on the tools for a long time, and I genuinely can't remember.
Can't remember your biggest month ever.
See, this is the thing. That's where I'm not that. I know my biggest month at Beaumont, but I'm not sure that Nikki would want me to say.
Yeah. All right, go again.
Go again.
How do you prioritise and manage multiple tasks and deadlines effectively? So I have multiple systems in place. And as you whoever was working with Beth knows, an EA who keeps me on task.
Yep.
I use Trello, and I live by my calendar, so I'm very driven by my calendar. I'm very good at compartmentalising, so I switch off between tasks. So hopefully you feel like while I've been here, I've been very present here. I don't think about other things when I'm doing what I'm doing. And I run a system that my to-do list is based on location, not a to-do list. So I have a to-do list that says, I have a to-do list that is an office to-do list, a home to-do list, and in the car to-do list. So when I'm in the car, I'll go, okay, I'm in the car. Is there anything I need to do kind of on the shops on the way home, or things that, so then I'll put things in the car to drop off or do things on the way so that I'm efficient with my time, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Interesting. And so you write the to-do list every morning when you wake up?
Yeah, so I also have a thing, and this is one of the things I try and teach the recruiters to do. So I don't log off for the day, so that when I log off, I can log off and be present with my family. I don't log off for the day when I want to finish work. I finish work half an hour before I want to finish work, and I spend my last half hour of the day being really clear and intentional about setting myself up for the next day. And so that I spend half an hour kind of planning and organising myself for the next day, so I know very clearly what I'm doing the next day. And so that then in terms of, and I used to do this as when I was a recruiter, when I was on the tools, that would be who are on my call lists for the next day. Do I have 3 times as many people planned to call than I need to get through to, because you're never going to get through. So if I want to do 10 calls tomorrow, I need to have 30 people on my list, for example. When I was a recruiter, this is what I train people about internally. Don't tell me you didn't get through to enough people. You didn't have enough people on your list. Make sure when you're calling, you're calling. When you're calling, that's not the time to go, who am I calling? You need to have your people on your list at that point in time. So planning half an hour before my end of my day to go, what am I doing tomorrow? Where am I at? Is everything ready to go? So that when I'm doing, not working out at that point in time. And then when I log off, I actually have a whole visualization technique. And I'm showing my age. I have this old blue filing cabinet in my head. In my head, I put everything in the filing cabinet. I close it. I lock the key. And that's me closing my day for the day so that I can go home and be present at home.
That's no one calls you after work?
Occasionally, but only if it's really urgent. Yeah.
That's got to be a bit of a superpower, because a lot of people struggle to just switch off after work, go home, and then just focus on home life. A lot of recruiters, I find, are generally thinking about things and calls and extra stuff that they need to do while they're at home, and it kind of ruins their work-life balance or their home life a little bit. What's the strategy that you've got there? Is that quite literally you visualize a blue filing cabinet?
I'm not perfect at it because I don't do it every single day. I'm not going to lie. And the days I don't, I really notice that I don't. So, and even when I'm working from home, I'll try and finish the work with a walk. I'll take my dog for a walk to sort of have a barrier between work and finishing.
Yeah.
I do have my email on my phone, but I have it in I have a work sort of file in my phone right on the last page of my phone, so that I have to actively go through about 3 steps to go and look in it. So it's a conscious choice to go, and I have no notifications set up.
Yep.
So it's a very much a conscious choice I have to be making to go and look at it.
Yep.
And I also I heard this saying, and this has always resonated with me, I never look at my email before I go to bed, because all you're doing at that point is fighting with your pillow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
there's nothing you can do but fight with your pillow if you look at your email before bed.
And don't look at it as soon as you wake up either.
Yeah.
And are these little tricks just skills you picked up from other people, or do you do any like mentoring or personal coaching that you get over the years?
So part and part is what I would say. So I'm part of a really good leadership group called Leadership Think Tank, which is a peer advisory networking group, which is CEOs of businesses, and I've been part of that for 6 years. So I find that really, really valuable, and they are all different businesses.
Paid, free?
No, it's paid.
Yep.
So that's part mentoring, part coaching, part peer advisory, and actually a lot of them, it's not why I do it, but a number of them have gone on to become clients over the years, so it's good from that perspective as well, but it's not why I do it, to be really clear. That's really useful, and it's great. Like, we've got CEOs of, well, I probably shouldn't name them, they may not want to be named, but yeah, it's really useful. And it's interesting because everybody's challenges are the same regardless of industry. You know, we have charities in there, we have big law firms in there, we have, big veterinary hospitals in there. It's a real mix of clients, and everybody has the same challenges.
What are they?
People. Processes, systems, leases, landlords. It's all
Yeah.
the same sort of. It's all the same sort of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, should we go one more?
One more.
You don't.
There you
I'll
go.
do it. Let me do it. I want to do another one.
All right,
I don't
Go
like
on.
this
Okay,
one.
that's fine.
This is all right. What's the most ridiculous excuse you've heard for not going to an interview?
This is not for not going for an interview, but this is the best excuse I've heard for someone quitting a job, which is even better.
Yeah.
And it became a saying. So when I worked for Robert Half many years ago, we had an employee that worked with us who was pretty new, might have been their first week in the job, who at lunchtime said, "I'm just going to the chip shop," and never came back.
What?
And it became a saying then, like whenever then anybody didn't turn up to a job, didn't turn up to an interview, it was like chip shop. It became a saying that we had internally, that chip shop became an excuse that people used for, we've all heard, I've had conversations with people where I had to say to someone once, "Oh, I'm sorry, your nan's died a 4th time now." Okay. But a chip shop it's just the fact that it became a saying that we turned into a joke was the funniest one.
The chip shop.
Chip
I'm going
shop.
to use that from now on.
Yeah, chip shop.
No,
What happened
that's
to your
awesome.
candidate? Chip shop.
Well, this has been really fun.
Thank you.
What have you thought?
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been good fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the Confessions of a Recruiter podcast. And are you going to Telenex?
Yeah. I'll be there on Thursday.
Awesome. Well, we're going to see you at Telenex too.
This will be
Right.
your last year as president.
Yeah, last 6 months as president.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to go out with a
last
bang?
Telenex.
Oh, depends what a bang
What's the after
is.
party like? You would have been to heaps.
I'm a very respectable person.
The
No
awards
after
night.
parties.
No after parties.
No after parties.
The
Well,
president doesn't party.
either that or I don't tell, one or the other, right?
This is Confessions.
Yeah,
All
but
secrets.
it's also recorded.
Awesome. Well, thank you
All right.
very much for joining us.
Thanks for
Thanks,
having me.
Nina.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.